It's NFL Daily by Chat Sports, and we have had an eventful week here on the channel, and really just across the National Football League, with the 53-man roster set, and then the waiver wire, and more moves that have gone on since then. So now what we're going to do is we are going to break down the top remaining free agents at this point and talk about some potential destinations for those players of where they could end up. So without further ado, let's get started. We begin with Kareem Hunt at the running back position, still trying to find a home. The Browns were concerned about his lack thereof of speed that he has anymore. Reports from Tom Pelissero was that there are 4 teams specifically interested in Kareem Hunt, but Kareem Hunt is holding out to see what the best offer potentially is. Meanwhile, Leonard Fournette is trying to find a new home of some sorts. And both these guys, their situations might actually depend on how this Jonathan Taylor situation ultimately gets played out. Maybe one of them goes to Indianapolis to fill the void left by Jonathan Taylor at this point in time. Leonard Fournette really developed as a good pass catcher after playing with Tom Brady. He was not much of a pass catcher before that. We'll see if Leonard Fournette has something left to offer potentially for a team out there. Jarvis Landry is still available. Jarvis Landry struggled to stay healthy, but still a talented receiver. Still does a good job of getting open towards the middle of the field. If you are a team looking for that number 4 receiver of sorts, Jarvis Landry might potentially be worth taking a flyer on. And you talk about some of the teams out there that could be maybe like Tampa Bay, for example. You lost Russell Gage. That's a team that's got a shot to win that division. Don't sleep on him staying within the NFC South. Then there's offensive guard Dalton Risner, and this just doesn't add up to me. Why Dalton is still a free agent at this point in time. Had a very good run with the Denver Broncos. Was picked out of Kansas State, 4-year starter there with the Denver Broncos. And, I mean, he's a good pass and run blocker, good leader. I thought he was going to sign all the way back in March. It doesn't add up to me why he's still available at this point in time. If you have an injury at the guard spot, Dalton Risner can come in right away and be your starter. Chris Wormley is also still available at this point as well. He's trying to find somewhere to go and could have a nice impact for somebody on their defensive line if you're looking for a game changer there to add some strength to that defense. So there's our first 5 options, and we have 20 more to go here on NFL Daily. Let's ask you about Kareem Hunt. What team is signing him? I tend to think Buffalo is interesting. Miami's a possibility. We've heard about Minnesota, Indianapolis, a number of teams. What team is signing Kareem Hunt? Chime in and tell us in the comment section what that team is and let me know where you think he ends up. Matt Ioannidis is on the list. Another one that still baffles me why he's still available at this point. The Seattle Seahawks have been a team that's been mentioned. They could potentially need some help in the interior of the defensive line. He's a great wingman. This is not a guy that's going to be your leading sack man, but he's going to take up a couple blockers and allow for other guys to step up and make some plays. Kyle Van Noy is out there. He had talked to the Baltimore Ravens a while back. Ultimately, they went in a different direction with Jadeveon Clowney. I know that the Patriots have talked about a reunion potentially. We'll see where Kyle Van Noy goes. I think he's still got something left in the tank. Safety Andrew Adams is still available as well at this point. He's a guy I would think that after the season gets going, when there's an injury at the safety spot, he should see his phone light up and potentially get some calls to fill in a void there at the safety spot. Byron Jones is a free agent. Kind of similar to Andrew Adams there. When teams start to get shorthanded at the corner spot, Byron Jones could see his phone ringing potentially with some possibilities there. Our favorite holiday is Golladay, right? The former New York Giant. And his time, it felt like just that his prime years went by so quick. there with the New York Giants. Things kind of just faded quickly for Kenny Golladay, but this is a guy that is a good possession receiver. He can get open. I personally, and maybe I'm just showing my age at this point here, but I still don't feel like Kenny Golladay is that old, relatively speaking. Um, maybe time is relative, and it's all just catching up with me. But this feels like a guy that still might have something left to offer. Taylor Lewan, his circumstance is pretty interesting. He knew right away he was going to get cut by the Tennessee Titans because they were going to have to pay him $10 million, and none of it was guaranteed. So he was very aware of what was going to happen. He's still hanging around doing his podcast with the Barstool Boys with Will Compton and everything, busting around. And Taylor Lewan, this is somebody that I think he kind of has to decide, do I want to play for cheap or would I rather just sit out and do nothing at all? He could be a guy I could see maybe coming in later in the season. Remember, he's still recovering from injury, too, to be potentially a part of a contending team to fill a void, but not a bad option if you are looking for an emergency tackle of sorts, Taylor Lewan. His former teammate, Ben Jones, also still available at this point in time. Ben Jones wasn't bad in Tennessee. Then you have Melvin Ingram at the edge rusher position. And Melvin Ingram, he's been a journeyman of sorts. We saw him in Miami, Kansas City, Pittsburgh. And, I mean, this is a guy that not necessarily the stat stuffer all the time, but finds a way to make an impact on the game and open things up for other guys. Melvin Ingram, he'll play somewhere. He'll put on a jersey at some point this season, as will Casey Hayward as well. Casey Hayward, a guy that, if you recall, spent some time there with the Pittsburgh Steelers. And Casey Hayward is somebody that I would expect when teams are shorthanded. I mean, you think, we mentioned Baltimore earlier. They've been through the corners already. If you're looking for a corner, Casey Hayward's not bad. Carlos Dunlap, former Seattle Seahawk, former Kansas City Chief. This guy can be a sack machine. I'm very curious. He's another one that I thought would have been signed by now. Maybe, sure, he's not the same player he was 2 years ago. But this guy can still get after the quarterback and still be elusive. Now, he doesn't necessarily fit every scheme out there. That was the big thing between him and Seattle, why ultimately they moved on from him, was he wasn't necessarily the scheme fit they were looking for anymore. But watch out for Carlos Dunlap potentially to see him end up somewhere and still get a shot to make a roster at some point. Where will Carlos Dunlap sign in NFL free agency? Weigh in, tell us in the comment section. Give me a team that comes to mind that you would think would be a good fit for Carlos Dunlap. Weigh in the comment section. Name me one team of who that is. Today's show is presented by BetUS, the exclusive sportsbook partner of Chat Sports. Go to chatsports.com/bet. Enter the promo code NFL Daily for a 125% deposit bonus. Put $100 down. You get $125 to spend for free at chatsports.com/bet. And enter that promo code NFL Daily for that deposit bonus. Odds are out for next week's Chiefs and Lions game, the NFL kickoff game on Thursday night. We don't know if Chris Jones will be back by then or not, but what we can tell you is the Chiefs are 6.5-point favorites. Over-under, expected to be a high-scoring affair, 54.5. Get your bets in now. Chatsports.com/bet, promo code NFL Daily to get your bets in today. Julio Jones also on this list, and Julio got a chance with a couple of teams as of late. You know, he was most recently with the Bucs last year, got to play with Tom Brady, went to Tennessee before that, and it's very evident that Julio Jones is not the Hall of Fame receiver that he was with the Atlanta Falcons. But he's still very big. He could still be a red zone threat of some sorts. If you are looking for a tall, big receiver, I mean, I think a team like Kansas City, who, you know, they've already dealt with some injuries at the wide receiver position. You can get him real cheap. Maybe, think about this. If you had to deal with him and Travis Kelce both in the red zone, Patrick Mahomes is going to love that all day. Akiem Hicks is also on this list as well. The defensive lineman, formerly of the Tampa Bay Buccaneers, teammates with Julio Jones there in Tampa Bay. And, I mean, if you look back at the last decade, he was one of the most dominant defensive players with what he brought to the table and still has something to offer. Akiem Hicks is not done yet. Maybe he comes back to Chicago and finds his way with that organization. Logan Ryan also sitting available out there at the safety position. A lot of good safeties out there, as well as Deron Harmon as well. He's still trying to find a home at this point. Harmon is. We'll see if either one of those guys get call-ups. We mentioned there's plenty of other guys. It'll be a while, I think, before those two guys potentially find their spot. Terrell Basham at the edge rusher position, also still waiting to see if he goes. Kind of in the same boat where there's too many other options before his name ultimately gets called first. The final five on this list. We find Robert Quinn at the edge rusher position, was most recently with the Philadelphia Eagles. Philadelphia stacked defense there. We know that Hallie Roseman's aggressive. I wouldn't rule out the possibility of him making a reunion. Carson Wentz, I'll tell you what, Carson Wentz, get ready to learn XFL, buddy. Nobody should have to take on Carson Wentz as far as I'm concerned. There are, whether it's practice squad guys or teams turn into their third-string quarterback, I would stay as far away from Carson Wentz as possible if it were up to me. I mean, you look at Carson Wentz, and for me, it's not just his play on the field, but he has never been a good teammate, never been a good leader. I would stay as far away from Carson Wentz as possible. I know that we've heard some teams like Philly and New England and others, but I very well think there's a possibility that we could have seen the last of Carson Wentz in the National Football League. A few more names to finish up. Andrew Norwell, the offensive guard spot. Also Michael Schoenfield at the offensive guard spot as well. And then A.J. Cann at the offensive guard spot. So, look, we got to wait for Dalton Risner to get his job, and then we'll eventually potentially work our way down to those guys. So there you have it. That is the top free agents remaining. Now weigh in the comment section. Tell me, who's your favorite team, and who should they sign if they should sign anybody at all? Let us know who that team is. Weigh in the comment section. Name me a player that your team needs to add to their roster. Hit me up on Twitter, at Tyler Jones Live, for more NFL coverage there. Talking about the Seattle Seahawks as well as the rest of the National Football League. And I'll see you next time right here on NFL Daily.